Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of our guests today, including Brendan Batchelor, on short notice. Voice of the Canucks standing by. We appreciate that. Sponsored by Basant Motors. The Basant Motors Scholarship is back again this year. Basant is offering $32,000 to 16 deserving students. Get all the details at basantmotors.com/scholarship. Deadline to enter is September 24th. And again, we're having some issues with our Delaney's OK Tire in Langley inbox. Nothing to do with Delaney's OK Tire, by the way.
Great guys.
Who really helped me last week. My car broke down. They did such a fabulous job.
The best of the best.
We suggest you either tweet us or email us. What's that email address again? Team. I've only been working here 2.5 years.
Ryan, why can't you send out
the team at checkmedia.ca
email a group text from our Donnie and Dolly text? Just send it out. Just send out a tweet. We got to get some of these going. The text line's not working.
Rick's worried about the "Is It Just Me" segment.
Yeah,
because right now it looks like we have to be creative and come up with our own.
We need.
So you're worried about that? I don't want to do that.
We need Stephen Cloverdale to step up.
Don't worry, he will. Brendan Batchelor, I'm sure he's enthralled by this conversation. Joining us on a day from Sportsnet 650. On a day we find out Quinn Hughes has been named 15th captain of the Vancouver Canucks. Brendan, thanks for doing this again on short notice. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you guys today?
Very good. Very good. Quinn Hughes, 15th Canuck captain. Did Vancouver make the right choice?
I think so, for a number of reasons. One, I think, you could have arguments about who the best player on the team is, but I think you can't really question that he's the most important player in terms of the minutes he plays, the role that he plays as, a true number one defenseman, which is something you could argue that this organization hasn't really seen prior to Quinn Hughes joining the club. And then you look at the way he deals with the media, which I know isn't everything about being the captain, but it is an important part of it. And, a good example today, how eloquently he spoke about September 11th off the top of the press conference, how he spoke last year leading up to the team's Pride Night. I think he seems like a good fit. And, when you talk to people behind the scenes around the organization, it's clear that he's pretty well universally respected by players and staff and coaches and everybody in the organization. So I like the decision. I think it's the right one.
With that shirt on, that checkered shirt, and that beard, you're looking more and more like the old Canuck logo. It's absolutely perfect, Brendan.
Yeah, I just got to throw a toque on here.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
there you go.
Perfect.
Wow.
Hey, they're saying all the right things. JT Miller's okay with this. Elias Pettersson's okay with this. What do you think? Do you think they're okay with this? Were they expecting to be the captain?
Yeah, I'm interested in that because I don't really know the answer, but I think that they wanted to make a point of emphasizing that this is going to be the leadership group. And we hear this oftentimes from organizations, but they had Miller and Demko and Pettersson all in attendance at the press conference. All three guys up at the podium, Alvin, Hughes, and Tocchet, referenced them numerous times. So I think it's clear that the organization still wants to make those three guys in particular feel loved, feel like they're a big part of things, even if they're not going to wear the C on their jerseys, because all three of those guys are going to be hugely important to how successful this team can be going forward, and you need to have them on side. And, if you take what they were saying at face value, it sounds like guys are excited for Quinn. As I said, talking to people in the organization, people seem to think it's the right decision, but there's always egos involved in this, so you never really know how it's going to change the dynamic in the room, and the only way we will really be able to read into that is to see how they perform on the ice once the season gets underway.
So, Brendan, the youngest captain in Canucks history is Trevor Linden at 21. Quinn's at 23. It is still relatively young for a captain, but you know what? We're all thinking it's the right call, but what about his age right now? What do you think of that?
I don't think that matters so much. Maybe in the past it might have been a bigger factor, but in the modern NHL, all the best players and all the biggest impact guys are younger than we've ever seen before. You look at the impact, just using the Canucks as an example. Hughes came in right away, had a big impact. Elias Pettersson came in right away, had a big impact. You see that on teams across the NHL, and more you see veteran players having a ton of respect for the young guys because of the level that they hold themselves to, the standards that they hold themselves to. So, maybe in the past, if a young guy was named captain too early and there were a bunch of older veterans in the room, you might worry about it. But I don't worry about it personally, just because I think Hughes clearly has the respect of his teammates. They clearly understand how important he is to the success they're going to have. And, if you believe what we've heard from the organization as well, that he's sort of found more of a voice in the dressing room over the last little bit, especially since the Horvat trade last year. So, it's hard to know for sure without being in the room and understanding the dynamic. But, you see how Hughes handles himself. You see how important a player he is for this team already. And I'm not worried about the fact that he's a little on the younger side.
Yeah, and he said all the right things today. I love the fact that he called Brady Tkachuk in Ottawa to talk about what it is like being a captain in the Canadian market. And Brendan, a big part of being a captain in the Canadian market is the media attention, especially when you're losing. Canadian markets are great when you're winning, but when you're losing, and the Canucks have done a lot of that lately. Just talk about being a captain in the Canadian market, how tough that is sometimes.
Yeah, well, it's more than just being the captain of a hockey team. It's almost like a political position, right? You're a spokesman. Right. You have to speak to world issues, right? We've seen that, Bo Horvat was really involved in the bubble with the Black Lives Matter movement. He's spoken out very well on social issues in the past. Hughes has done that as well, as I alluded to with his comments about 9/11 today, talking about Pride Night last year. So, it's not just, you're the most important leader on this hockey team, so we're putting the C on your sweater. You're a public facing person that represents the organization to a great degree. And when there are other things that happen in the world that may not necessarily be connected to hockey, people are coming to you for comment. So, that's another reason why I think Hughes is the best choice for the captaincy, is because he's spoken out on some of these issues in the past. And, I have faith that he's the kind of guy that will be able to handle that kind of pressure pretty well, and you already know he's such a classy guy and speaks so well that I think it's a good fit for him.
Brandon, Delaney's OK Tire in Langley is having a sale as we speak on snow tires. You're going to need that in a couple of years. When the Canucks have their practice facility up at SFU, that's the story going around up Burnaby Mountain. Would that make sense?
It would make sense for me because I live in Poco, so it's a much shorter commute than to UBC or something like that.
There you go.
So I'm on board with it. I think it makes sense, especially if you believe some of the rumblings that SFU might be interested in getting into Div 1 hockey in the NCAA. Then they're going to build a new arena anyway for the Canucks to partner with that to make it a practice facility. I can see it making sense, but I'm sure it's one of many options that the organization would be looking into in terms of a practice facility. For me, aside from the fact that I want a shorter commute, I think the most important factor is that they get the practice facility done, because I think it's a really important part of, being able to build your program, being able to have a place where your players come regularly and, you're not dealing with, are we in the big rink or are we not? Because there's tennis this week, there's a concert next week, things like that. So, I'd like SFU. I think it makes sense if they can partner with the university to make that work for both sides. That would be great. But I think the most important part is getting it done regardless of where they're going to put it, so that they do have a home practice facility like most other teams do in the National Hockey League now.
I tell you who's got a nice arena is Poco, where you live. It's brand new. It's my kids playing there tonight, as a matter of fact. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful rink. I hadn't actually been in to see the arenas until this past weekend. I went over, there was a charity hockey game between the Poco Firefighters and the Coquitlam RCMP going on. So we went and checked that out, and it's beautiful because I used to play minor hockey in that arena, but they've done a ton of work on it. Yep. The community center is beautiful there, and they've got a new team coming in there this season as well. So, if the Canucks want to practice there, I could walk to practice. So I'm not going to complain about that if they want to do that.
Let them know, Brendan. Hey, again, short notice. We thank you so much, my friend.
Sounds good, boys. Anytime.
You bet.